So far, any questions? Okay, just briefly about the US presidential election. There are 538 electoral votes, 278 for majority, and 12 billion spent in 2010. I mean, another election, 2020. I mean, another election, $12 billion on last election, presidential election. The US parties spent 6 billion for Donald Trump, 6 billion for Joe Biden. Is that an issue? $12 billion election spending. It's an issue because if you have billions of dollars, you can actually buy a president. Paisa കൊണ്ട് നമുക്ക് പ്രസിഡന്റിനെ നമുക്ക് വിലയ്ക്ക് വാങ്ങാൻ പറ്റും. ആ ഒരു സിറ്റുവേഷനിലാണ് യുഎസിലെ ഡെമോക്രസി. And voter turnout we discussed is about 60 to 66%. It varies from 60 to 66%. The last election it was 66.7%. ഈ electoral votes നെ കുറിച്ച് എന്തെങ്കിലും questions ഉണ്ടോ? If you have any questions, I am more than happy to answer. All right. You can ask once I conclude the presentation as well. Free and fair election. In any democracy, one of the most important aspects that's been protected under the Constitution is to conduct free and fair elections. Whether it is happening in the United States. The number one issue I want to talk about is gerrymandering. We heard about gerrymandering. Gerrymandering means, the state can decide what should be the boundary of election district. The election district boundary is the state deciding. So what they do is they make sure that Republicans, Democrats, Republicans are a constituency or electoral district, Democrats are so that they make sure that that seat is safe for everyone. Indian context പറഞ്ഞു ഇപ്പോൾ കേരളത്തിൽ ഇപ്പം ഇത് കോട്ടയം ലോക്സഭയായിരുന്നു കോട്ടയം ലോക്സഭയിൽ ഇപ്പം ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ ഗവൺമെന്റ് തീരുമാനിക്കുകയാണ് LDF-ന് കൂടുതൽ പ്രാതിനിധ്യമുള്ള ഏരിയാസ് ഉണ്ട്. ആ ഏരിയാസ് മുഴുവൻ കോട്ടയം ലോക്സഭയുടെ കീഴിലേക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരിക. എന്നിട്ട് UDF-ന് പ്രാതിനിധ്യം കൂടുതലുള്ള മറ്റൊരു ഇതിലേക്ക് അവർ മൂവ് ചെയ്യും. അങ്ങനെ ഒരു സംഭവം, അതായത് അവർ ഇലക്ട്രോണൽ ജോഗ്രഫിക്കൽ ബൗണ്ടറി അത് മാറ്റി വരയ്ക്കും. To make sure that seat goes to that particular political party, LDF or UDF. So in the US, they do that. All the states, almost all the 50 states, Republicans and Democrats, once they get into power, they redraw the maps of the electoral district to make sure that their candidates win. അത് ഒരു ഫ്രീ ആൻഡ് ഫെയർ ഇലക്ഷൻ്റെ പ്രോസസ്സാണ്. കാരണം അത് ഒത്തിരി ആൾക്കാരുടെ പ്രാതിനിധ്യത്തെ ചോദ്യം ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു കാര്യമാണ്. Incarcerated individuals, there are almost 1.9 billion people. The majority of them cannot vote in elections. Voter restriction legislation. What they do is they shut down polling places. Election actually that happened in 2020 presidential election in the hometown where I live. The day before we checked out the polling places, and one of the polling places in minority communities they closed it. Nobody knew about it. I wasn't at the polling station of closing. The state decided that we counting as decided. Now what happens? Now if I plan to vote in that polling location that day, I didn't know about this. I drive, I go to that place, I plan to vote, and the place is closed. Now I have to go to another place which may be around 5 miles or 10 miles away. ഇവിടെ ഇവിടെ സെയിൽസ് കോളേജ് ഊട്ടിയാണെങ്കിൽ മഹാത്മാഗാന്ധി യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയുടെ ക്യാമ്പസ് വരെ ഡ്രൈവ് ചെയ്ത് പോകണം. അത് കൂടുതൽ ഡ്രൈവ് ചെയ്തു ആൾക്കാർ വോട്ട് ചെയ്യും. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള അവസ്ഥ ഇറ്റ്സ് ചാൻസസ് ആർ ലെസ്. ചില ആൾക്കാർ ചെയ്യും, ബട്ട് ദ മജോറിറ്റി ഓഫ് ദ പീപ്പിൾ they just give up voting. That's why. So it's intentionally done primarily by the Republicans in the United States. It's every election they do that. Intentionally they try to shut down polling places. Some progressive states what they do is to vote. Kottayam നിങ്ങൾക്ക് പ്രായം 18 years of age ആണ് എങ്കിലും ആ സ്റ്റേറ്റിലുള്ള എല്ലാ വ്യക്തികൾക്കും അവർ ബാലൻസ് അയച്ചു പ്രീപെയ്ഡ് envelopes. അതായത് വോട്ട് കാസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തതിനു ശേഷം നമുക്കത് തിരിച്ച് വീണ്ടും ആ സ്റ്റേറ്റിന് അയച്ചു കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റും. Some states actually do this. There are some 15 to 20 states actually send ballots to all registered voters. But other states, they don't do that because they don't want people to vote. They claim that I'm going to change there will be fraud. So they don't do that. Actually, there is no scientific evidence that if you mail in ballots, there is no fraud. Or scientific research papers are showing it. But still they do that. It's primarily Republicans. That's what they do. ID requirements. With photo ID, you have voting. Some states you don't have to have a photo ID. If you have a residence proof, like if you stay in a house, you have a mortgage payment, that's enough to vote. പക്ഷേ പല സ്റ്റേറ്റുകളിലും ഒരു ഫോട്ടോ ഐ ഡി ആവശ്യമാണ്. ഫോട്ടോ ഐ ഡി ഉണ്ടാക്കണമെങ്കിൽ ഇറ്റ് കോസ്റ്റ് ടു മച്ച്. യു ഹാവ് ടു പേ ഫോർ ഇറ്റ്. സം സ്റ്റേറ്റ്സ് ദേ ഡോണ്ട് ഗിവ് ഫ്രീ ഫോട്ടോ ഐ ഡി. അങ്ങനെ ഇഷ്യൂസ് വരുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും പീപ്പിൾ ദേ ഡോണ്ട് ആക്ച്വലി പർച്ചേസ് എ ഫോട്ടോ ഐ ഡി ഇൻ ഓർഡർ ടു ജസ്റ്റ് വോട്ട് ഇൻ ആൻ ഇലക്ഷൻ. സോ അതൊരു പ്രോബ്ലമാറ്റിക് ആയിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യമാണ്. So again, various types of legislations are being introduced primarily by Republicans to constrain, to restrict voting. Now, Shelby County versus Alabama, in court case, Supreme Court 2013 now in the verdict. It was about the Civil Rights Act of 1965. In the US Civil Rights Movement, Martin Luther King actually came to India to learn about Mahatma Gandhi's freedom struggle. In the 1950s, Martin Luther King came here to learn about this non-violent freedom struggle. Then he went back and then initiated this civil rights movement, which culminated in the 1965 Civil Rights Act. That Act is component that primarily minorities of the community. The minorities of the even blacks, Hispanics, Latin American regions, common other Asians in the area, states, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ counties. എന്തെങ്കിലും ഒരു വോട്ടിംഗ് ചേഞ്ചസ് ഉണ്ടാവുന്നതിന് മുമ്പ് those governments have to seek approval from the federal government. ഇല്ലാതെ അത് ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റും. അത് കാരണം ബ്ലാക്സിന് വോട്ട് ചെയ്യാനുള്ള അവകാശം നിഷേധിച്ചതുകൊണ്ടുള്ള ഒരു നിയമമാണ്. അതായത് ഫെഡറൽ ഗവൺമെന്റ് ഒരു കമ്പനി തീരുമാനിക്കുകയാണ് ഈ കമ്പനിയിൽ ഇന്ന വോട്ടിംഗ് ലെജിസ്ലേഷൻസ് ഞങ്ങൾ പാസ് ചെയ്യുന്നു. അത് അപ്രൂവ്ഡ് ആണ്. അത് they don't have to get permission from the federal government. അതിന്റെ end result എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ these state governments will do everything possible to deny voting rights for people who are poor, low-income, blacks, Hispanics, Asian. So that was the end result. Election deniers. Media ധാരാളം കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ടാവും. ട്രംപ് 2020 election ജയിച്ചതിന് ശേഷം പറഞ്ഞു no, Hillary didn't win the election. Biden didn't win the election. I actually won the election. It was അങ്ങനെ ഒരു conspiratorial theories ആണ്. ആ ഒരു ഇഷ്യൂ ഈ 2020 ഇലക്ഷൻ മാത്രമാണ് നടന്നത്. ഇതിന് മുമ്പ് 2016 ട്രംപ് ജയിച്ചപ്പോൾ ഹില്ലറി ക്ലിന്റന്റെ ക്യാമ്പയിൻ the same thing also in 2000 Bush v. Gore. അതായത് ബുഷ് ജയിച്ചത് ഫ്ലോറിഡ എന്ന് പറയുന്ന സ്റ്റേറ്റ് less than 300 വോട്ട്സ് ആണ് ജയിച്ചത്. almost 171 വോട്ട്സ് ആണ്. അപ്പോൾ ആ സമയത്ത് ഡെമോക്രാറ്റ്സും ഈ ഒരു ഇഷ്യൂ റേസ് ചെയ്തു. അതായത് അവിടെ ഇലക്ഷൻ മാൽ പ്രാക്ടീസ് നടന്നിട്ട് ഫ്രോഡ് നടന്നിട്ട് അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് റിപ്പബ്ലിക്കൻസ് ജയിച്ചത്. So it's an ongoing phenomenon in the United States, not just in 2020 election. Just wanted to share that. Citizens United. ഇതൊരു 2010 സുപ്രീം കോടതി ഡിസിഷനാണ്. ഇതെന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ സുപ്രീം കോടതി ചെയ്തത് അതായത് ആസ് പാർട്ട് ഓഫ് യുവർ റൈറ്റ് ഓഫ് സ്പീച്ച്, ഫ്രീഡം ഓഫ് സ്പീച്ച്, കോർപ്പറേഷൻസ് യുഎസിലുള്ള ഏത് കോർപ്പറേഷൻ, ബിഗ് കോർപ്പറേഷൻസിന് മൈക്രോസോഫ്റ്റ്, ആപ്പിൾ ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ബിഗ് കമ്പനികൾക്ക് എത്ര മണി വേണമെങ്കിലും ഇലക്ഷൻ സ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്യും. They can spend any amount of money provided it is not directly related to the campaign funding, like donation to Joe Biden or Republican Party. Otherwise they can spend. They can purchase ads in TV or they can make movies. They can do anything that they want, but unlimited. Etra money will spend billions and billions of dollars, provided they will donate exactly directly to the candidate. Again, what these parties have done is they created small organizations called super PACs, okay, political action committees. But they use this money to demean a candidate, to promote a candidate. Trump's supporters are Trump supporting Joe Biden, demean advertisement. So, other 2020 election, election, billions of dollars in money they are pouring into the election in the US. So because of that, you can see this Citizens United, American Israel Public Affairs Committee or IPAC is one of the most influential lobbying group in the United States. They spent around $97,000 per senator. Per senator. One senator $97,000. Republican $97,000. Democrats $97,000. Republicans $57,000. Other House of Representatives $70,000 versus $40,000. $3 are spent to buy those candidates. Use ഇപ്പോൾ 538 representatives എത്ര മണിയാണ് ഈ ഐപാക്ക് എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞ ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ സ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത് ബേസിക്കലി ടു ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസ് ദെയർ പോളിസി ഇൻ ദ മിഡിൽ ഈസ്റ്റ് പോളിസി ഇൻഫ്ലുവൻസ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടി മാത്രം വെരി പവർഫുൾ ലോബിയിങ് ഓർഗനൈസേഷൻ. The finance, insurance, real estate industry, അവർ 2020 election spend ചെയ്തത് almost $2 billion ആണ്. ഇവർ ഇത്രയും മണി സ്പെൻഡ് ചെയ്യുമ്പോൾ they expect something in return. അത് പൈസ കൊടുത്തിട്ടുണ്ട്. It's like a quid pro quo. You give something and then you take something. It's like they ask for it. ഇത്രയും പൈസ കൊടുത്ത് they don't expect nothing in return എന്ന് വിശ്വസിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കാൻ സാധാരണ പബ്ലിക് ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടാണ്. Health industry $680 million. That explains why we don't have a universal healthcare, like free healthcare for everyone. Defense $50 million. Preparing one spending and all those money goes to the big manufacturers of big weapons like Boeing, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, and all the big companies are somewhere more. Now, US it's been widely heralded as some country that promotes human rights, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly. I just want to give you some highlights that happened in the last several years. Have you heard about the Occupy Wall Street movement? Occupy Wall Street? Yes. 2007 ഒരു huge huge economic crisis 2007. Economic crisis almost $10 trillion worth of wealth wiped out from the poor people, low-income people, and blacks from the United States. There is a huge protest movement in Ireland, and it's called the Occupy Wall Street movement. നമുക്ക് ഇഷ്ടപ്പെടാത്ത ഒരു പോളിസി ഒരു കൺസേൺ ഉണ്ടാകുന്ന ബേസിക് ഹ്യൂമൻ റൈറ്റ്സ് ആണ്. So what the US government at that time did was they even evicted people from some of the parts where they actually occupied. It was hugely problematic. People didn't have the right, even if they want to protest, they could confine only to certain small spaces to actually protest. George Floyd murder, George Floyd, the murder of George Floyd.
എനിക്ക് ശ്വാസം മുട്ടും. അതന്നെ
വെടിവെച്ചൊന്നും George Floyd actually the police officer Derek Chauvin actually kneeled down on his neck, and a bystander actually recorded ചെയ്തുകൊണ്ടാണ് നമുക്കത് കാണാൻ പറ്റിയത്. It's a prevailing issue in the US. A bystander അത് റെക്കോർഡ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ none of us will know that George Floyd died just because of that person kneeling down on his neck. നമുക്കറിയില്ല. അതിന് കാരണം ഞാൻ എക്സാമ്പിൾ പറയാണ്. ജോർജ് ഫ്ലോയിഡിന്റെ ഫസ്റ്റ് autopsy report information report. It was filed. First information report is freely available on internet. Anyone can check. അതിനകത്ത് പറഞ്ഞിരുന്നത് ഇങ്ങനെ നെക്കിൽ നീട്ടോൺ ചെന്നു അയാൾ മരിച്ചത് ഒരു മെഡിക്കൽ ഇൻസിഡന്റ് ഉണ്ടായി ഫസ്റ്റ് എയ്ഡ് കൊടുത്തു അവർ രക്ഷപ്പെട്ടില്ല എന്നാണ് ഫസ്റ്റ് FIR തയ്യാറാക്കിയത്. None of this information that is shown in the video is in the FIR. കാരണം അങ്ങനെയാണ് പോലീസ് ഡിപ്പാർട്ട്മെന്റ് വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. ദാറ്റ്സ് ഹൗ ദേ വർക്ക്. അത് എല്ലാം ഒരു വർഷം ഏകദേശം 1,500 people are shot at by police. ആ സിറ്റുവേഷനിൽ this is one glaring example of that. Now, അതിനുശേഷം there was a huge protest movement for the Black Lives Matter movement, not just in the United States, all over the world, in India and France, Europe, Latin America, everywhere. So huge protest. But police, they usually tear gas them, they arrested them, they tortured them, protesters them, because primarily they just want to crush those movements. But those movements were actually against the criminally unjust system. But the government was not willing to tolerate any kind of dissent against the police in the US. Free Palestine protest movements, അതായത് ക്യാമ്പസിൽ pepper spray, campus protesters who were supporting for stopping genocide, but actually pepper spray by the police arrested students were even kicked out of their universities. It's a huge issue in the US. Militarization of police. It's actually happened under Obama. Obama actually passed a legislation that passed on unused military equipments to police. Now, if you look at the police in the US, you can see that there are pictures. They have almost fancy gears, like they even have tanks, military tanks on the floor. In the city level, we can see them rolling on the military tanks to crush protesters. And the media censures, which is very common. Mainstream media, you don't see any kind of broad spectrum of discussion on Ukraine war, Gaza war, or Black Lives Matter movement. But it's just a narrow spectrum of discussion allowed. Beyond that, it's impossible to even talk about a wide range of social issues. Now, this is the question. Now, is the United States democracy a representative democracy or not? I'm not going to talk about the theory aspect of it. But, Abraham Lincoln, the famous Republican, he said, the government should be of the people, by the people, for the people. And I will tell you whether it is of the people, by the people, for the people in the next slide. And if you're political science students, I would encourage you to look at this study by Guyland and Page, which appeared with Perspectives on Politics in 2014. They did an empirical study to look at which sets of factors have how much influence over public policy. Usually, public policy are influencing, are passing and influencing. They studied around 3,000 policies after a period of 30 years. Very particularly, public interest has nothing to do with any kind of social policy making. It's all big money industry. They decide what policy needs to be passed. Public opinion, just some examples. It's very recent public opinion poll. Number of universal healthcare means people were asked whether you need universal healthcare. Free healthcare, not free healthcare, you pay taxes so that government provides you with free universal healthcare. 63% people say yes, we need free healthcare, but you still don't have free healthcare. Raising minimum wage from $7.25 up to $15 are movement. 62% of the people say yes. Tuition-free public college. In the US, public colleges are not free of cost. You have to actually pay tuition. It costs around $15,000 per year for public universities. Private universities even more. For tuition-free public colleges, very question public not ask scam. And they say 63% of people say yes, there shouldn't be any fee charged for public college education. Israel's action in Gaza, 55% actually disapprove. Marijuana legalization, which is ganja, cannabis, 88% of the public say it should be legalized in the US. That's overwhelming support for that, but in some states it's still illegal. I live in a state called Iowa. It is illegal if I use, consume, buy, sell in Iowa any kind of cannabis-related products. I could be put in jail for almost 10 to 15 years. But if I walk 2 miles to my neighboring state of Illinois, where Chicago is, it is all legal. You can consume, you can do whatever you want with cannabis. It's legal. So there is that disparity between states and across the country. But still, it's a federal crime. If federal police identify you with kind of marijuana possession, you could end up in prison for 10 to 15 years. Gun control laws. The US is a country where there are almost 400 million guns out there, not in the police or the military. Public. 400 million guns, current guns. People want stricter gun control laws, like if you want to buy a gun, you need to go through a background check. But both parties, they don't support that. So that means even the public say, 58% say there should be stricter gun control laws. It's not passed by government. This gives you some idea what actually public wants and then what actually government implements. There's a huge disparity or gap. Now, speaking of human rights, blacks is one of the population that's been actually oppressed historically for almost 400 years. So Pew Research Center asked them a simple question. What do they feel about the institutions, powerful institutions in the United States? Okay. This was their response. So institutions are designed to hold black people back. Policing and force, political system, economic systems. And they also don't trust black elected officials, including President Obama, because most of his policies are again designed to hold black people back. How many more minutes do we have? How many more minutes do we have?
Sir, we can take a 1:15.
Okay.
About
Let
20
me
minutes.
wrap it up soon. This is just a quick question. Is there any Republican? Is there any difference between Republicans and Democrats and Green Party on these key issues? The Ukraine war. Any thoughts? Republicans, Democrats, any difference?
No.
No difference at all. Both parties they support, but Green Party actually opposes it. They support all kinds of wars. They oppose all kinds of wars. Green is actually opposing these wars. How about Gaza? Israel's genocide in Gaza.
Same.
What's the position of the Republican Party, Democratic Party?
Nothing different.
They support it. Both Democratic Party and the Republican Party, they provide unlimited amount of funding for the Israel government. Whereas the Green Party actually opposes it. They have a policy platform that says we are opposing this war that has to be stopped. There should be immediate ceasefire and stop killing children. How about tariffs and sanctions against China and Russia?